this opportunity to be here. We all look up to Startup South, an interesting event. It's a global event, isn't it? All right, let me take the protocol. Let me recognize the board chair, our brother here, Mr. Kalada Apiafi, and the convener himself, Mr. Ucha Niche. My dean that is here, Professor Henry Ozuru, Guidance Professional Business School, Postgraduate School. Dignitaries that are here, very important dignitaries that are here. Ladies and gentlemen, let me say this. I'm glad to be part of this annual gathering of startup founders, innovators, and entrepreneurs. Without any equivocation, I can say that Startup South has become a top brand in the technology space, and our school as a key player in the creating global business leaders through research innovation. I am excited about your contributions, the collaborations, and the growing influence of this gathering over the years. This is the 10th edition. Quite frankly, you guys have tried. Put your hands together for yourselves. It's not easy to do something like this in Port Harcourt. Only recently I was talking to, a very senior person in the state, and he was saying, how are you guys doing in business school? Because Port Harcourt people are a little bit slow when it comes to education. They would rather spend money on some other thing than go and spend money on education. So it's as tough as that. Let me start with this. According to the Kaufman Foundation, in 2011, they stated that startups are responsible for job growth in the United States. That's about a non-profit organization, very responsible in the US, making that statement. The importance of startups. Now, startups are fundamental in accelerating and shaping the economies of the top developed and emerging economies. Between the US, United States of America, and China, they own 90% of global innovation platforms. From Apple, NVIDIA, Alphabet, Facebook, Amazon, Alibaba, and etc. This is based on recent United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD report. You can imagine that is quite astounding. The market capitalization of these platforms are competing with the global GDP today. You can imagine that NVIDIA almost hitting $4 trillion, Apple over $3 trillion, Microsoft and all that, are very close to the GDP of Africa. And people like Elon Musk, who is the richest man in the world, his wealth is more than the wealth of Nigeria, the GDP of Nigeria. So that's very serious. And these are all startups that have just accelerated to this point. Global GDP is $115 billion. And see how these innovation platforms, they are all startups. Startups are worth temporary organizations that are looking for what? Repeated and scalable business model. Those are startups. The temporary organization looking for repeatable and scalable business models. Those are startups. And you can imagine most of these institutions have grown to this status. Now again, the US and China controls about 45% of the global GDP. With technology entrepreneurs mainly responsible for the lopsided and phenomenal contribution to global economic prosperity and productivity. In fact, the market capitalization of US and China equity market is estimated about $70 trillion. US and China, equity markets, $70 trillion. And then with the two countries accounting for over half of the global billionaires. Half of the global billionaires. US is about 902 billionaires, and China 516 billionaires, about that. Why is it important to state this? We are talking about startup, and we are saying that startup is a route to become reputable billionaires, and we have seen it in our country. A company like FluterWave, 2016, in 5-6 years, became bigger than the banks, traditional banks that we have in this country. That's to show you the power of startups. Technology disruption. Now, there are two types of entrepreneurs. We have the high-impact entrepreneurs, and we have the low-impact entrepreneurs. The intensity, quality, and quantity of entrepreneurs vary across countries. The low-impact entrepreneurs are prevalent and in less developed economies and countries. The high-impact, or what I call high-growth, or the gazelles, are more prevalent in the developed economies. I've just mentioned the US and China and co. Now, there's a nexus. There's a relationship between high-impact entrepreneurial activities and economic growth. So, if you have a lot of high-impact entrepreneurs who emerge through what we call strategic experimentation, which is what startups do, because they do a lot of business model innovation. You need to look for a scalable and repeatable business models to be able to scale and to be able to repeat. And so if you do that product process, you can become high-impact entrepreneurs. We have seen FluterWave, MoneyPoint, OPay, and all these ones that are doing. They are all startups that have scaled successfully in Nigeria. Quite a lot of them are coming up. Now, the more entrepreneurs, whether they are low impact or high impact, a country grows, the more it translates to the macroeconomic productivity. It is not the government. It's unfortunately, there is this issue of rent economy. If you look at it, a lot of people now want to be part of government. They feel that that is the easiest trajectory to make money, to become billionaires. People are not interested in business or in entrepreneurship. And I tell people they don't understand the power of startups, the power of business innovation. They don't know. So you come to our area here, in Lagos, in Lagos especially, Kenya, Nairobi, Cairo, and all those cities where you have these things very strong. People don't really bother about government. They live their life bigger than government. It is only in our cities layer like people are talking about government. How much can government really give to you? If you're talking about MoneyPoint, talking about $1 billion already, a unicorn. How many government people can make that kind of money? So, it's just for us to have the knowledge and then to get understanding that, see, our life can go beyond what government is doing. Politics cannot give you the money that entrepreneurs and startups can give you. We need to get that point clear. So young people should not focus on government, on politics, as the only way to be able to get to the top. Elon Musk is not a politician. In fact, he's giving money. He was the one of the people who helped Donald Trump to win the election. Isn't it? He's spending a lot of money, $1 million every place just to help the government to win. So you can see the importance of people at that space. Now, let me talk about the concept of dynamic efficiency. That's the term called dynamic efficiency. It looks like an economic concept. What is it talking about? Now, it's the ability of a firm or economy to innovate, adapt, and improve its performance over time through research. And what? Development. New technologies, better processes to meet changing market demands. It focuses on long-term growth and welfare by emphasizing continuous improvements in productivity and the creation of new and better products rather than static resource allocation at a single point in time. So it's against dynamic efficiency vis-a-vis static efficiency. Static efficiency is what Nigeria is practicing because what they do, every month people go to Abuja and share money. It's about distribution of what you have, of resources. Not long-term growth, but it's about immediate. But the beautiful thing is that we that are playing this space, we are looking at what? Dynamic efficiency. And that's why I like the topic. Build, connect, and grow. It's about innovation. It's about adaptation, which is very fundamental if we want to move to the next phase. In growth, very important. Now, the key drivers include innovation, entrepreneurship, investment in human capital, and the protection of intellectual property. Is the intellectual property office functioning in Nigeria very well? How many intellectual property rights have been registered? And that's what we should be doing when we play in the startup space. It's about what? Registering intellectual properties. One of the things that is happening is about there's this concept of what we call efficiency. You talk about efficiency, replacement strategies, and all that. Most of the startups, if you go to what these companies like Apple and most of the players, Alphabet and all that, they do is that they put market intelligence across innovation sectors in the world and buy up companies that are coming up aspiring to make sure that they don't challenge them, their dominance. Which was a mistake that companies like Kodak and Co., even BlackBerry did. But these companies are wise up. So what they do is that they put out, so if you check, there's a technology case study that I prepared. If you look at the number of companies that have been acquired by these players, Facebook acquisitions by Apple, acquisition is quite massive on an annual basis. What do? They block them from going there. That's why you can see Facebook buying WhatsApp, $19 billion, Instagram, $12 billion, Mobility, buy them, and some of them have a lot of what? Intellectual properties. They buy them over. Why? Is because the more you allow them to operate freely, your long-term survival is being threatened. And that's why it's important to emphasize that we need to pursue intellectual property rights. How strong are we in terms of R&D? R&D is quite important, very, very important if we want to make progress. The level of investment in R&D is quite important, and we must do something about that. Let me say this. High-impact entrepreneurial growth is intentional. It must be intentional. It must be intentional. And I think this gathering must be supported by the government intentionally. Towards a country business and industrial sector that will ultimately dovetail to the economic transformation. Now, the world has since moved on with the digital transformation, disrupting traditional sectors with digital products and services, and moving away from analog processes, method processes, products, and services. That's what we're enjoying ourselves. I tell people, I travel to different cities. I don't bother myself with taxis in the hotel. I always call Uber, and it's cheaper. Even if you want to use a taxi from Presidential Hotel to this place, it will be more expensive than calling Bolt. Bolt probably charge you 1,200 or 1,500 or 2,000. The traditional taxi will tell you 5,000. And then you don't need to shout. You don't just keep, here, you make a call, the guy is already waiting. It's convenience. I mean, that's one of the things you pay for. The value proposition is quite fantastic. You enjoy it. Now, with SMEs, small and medium enterprises contribute about 46% to GDP, Nigerian GDP, about over 95% to businesses, and it's 7% to employment. I mean, you can see SMEs doing that. It's a greenfield opportunity for Nigerian and entrepreneurs with the adoption of digital technologies. Because it means that, what is the transition? You have analog processes, you use digital technologies to disrupt. So you have opportunity to disrupt what people are doing with analog processes and products. And that's what startup is all about. So whenever we see people doing analog things, what you think about is, how do I go digital with this so that I can make money? Because the money is more. I mean, efficiency. We talk about dynamic efficiency. You make more money, and because you are delivering efficiency, people want to patronize you more. And that's what we enjoy from this space. So we need to write down how many businesses are analog that I know, and I can go do something about it. What I need to do is just to build a business model, innovation, and then that can be disrupted. For example, recent studies have shown that a 1% increase in digital ecosystem development can increase GDP per capita. I mean, divide the GDP by population. Nigeria's GDP per income capital in Nigeria is quite low. A lot of things have led to that. But that if you can employ digital ecosystem, it means that we can actually transform our wealth status. We can become more richer. I mean, that's the point. And so that can transform. While another study found that the annual increase in internet users can correlate with 1.1% increase in GDP per capita. It means that if we invest more in research and development, in digital business innovation, by 1%, it can correspondingly increase the economic well-being. Economic well-being, living standards. People today calling about poverty. But the more, you don't need too much education to play in this space, because you just need to understand how technology works. You can learn it easily, although we encourage people to do higher education, because a lot of people tell you that you have to do an MBA. An MBA probably will give you a 400% increase in your returns in terms of your wealth and all that. It's possible. That is very key. But again, people can start small. They may not have that money to do that. But the most important thing is that if you engage in technology, you have a better living standard. You have to be dedicated about that. Now, technology adoption, as I said earlier, could be the game changer for Nigeria. Nigeria is targeting 1 trillion what? GDP. Is that right? Aspiration across sectors. Now, this could be majorly aided by research and development, investment expenditure. Now, R&D expenditure is the gross domestic spending on R&D. How much is Nigeria spending on R&D? Investment, deliberately, intentionally, as a percentage of GDP. The world average is about 2.67%. The US is about 3.59%, as against less than 0.5% in Nigeria. 0.05, in fact. I see people, a lot of economists, I'm an economist as well, analyzing how Nigeria can move that. The easiest way to do the transition is through digital technology to achieve the 1 trillion economy that we're looking for. That's the easiest way to do it. How do we make that happen? For instance, technology adoption in revenue collection could improve the country revenue generation by over 50% in the medium term. We've already seen that happening in the country. The government has announced that, at the end of August, 20 trillion in revenue generation. They've been struggling for a very long time about how to raise money. In fact, Nigeria is one of the worst countries. If you look at revenue to GDP ratios across Africa, African average is about 16%. Nigeria has been doing 6%. Recently, the new government says they've moved up at 10% of GDP, revenue generation. The global average is about 20%. Countries like UK, US, all of them are doing 38% of the GDP. So if you can calculate, you calculate and just calculate, if the GDP of Nigeria, which has dropped about $300 billion, if you multiply that by 20%, it should be doing about $60 billion. $60 billion, if you multiply it by 1,500, you are talking about 90 trillion cash. That's what Nigeria should be getting on an annual basis in terms of revenue. But Nigeria, typically, what happened is that only about 2% of the revenue, scale of 1 to 10, 2 over 10 is what Nigeria receives as money to their coffers for a very long time. Sad. But now you see there's an improvement to about 10%, which is still less than the African average of 16%. Now, with technology adoption in procurement, you know our procurement frauds? People are giving contracts to themselves. They give the contract to themselves in government. Even in companies. You go and submit your bid, and then they use your bid again to take the contract from you. That's what happens. So you don't get your contract. Now, with technology, that will not happen anymore. I was talking to somebody in Total, and he's a senior person in procurement. He said it's difficult, he can't do that in Total. Now, imagine Nigeria adopt technology, right for it, what will happen? Government people cannot take those contracts. It's not possible. Because, you can verify that those companies belong to them. You will see it. They can't try it. So that will be the game changer if we don't want to see growth. And then wealth distribution in terms of businessmen being able to get it. Not somebody in government, you have the government office, and you're the one also getting all the contracts. It's technology that can change that. And that can cut across a lot of areas. Expenditure management and all that. Even the private sector, most of the companies too can be encouraged to do. They have legislation in that respect. And that will be a game changer for Nigeria. Nigeria should not be doing less than $2 trillion. We should not be talking about $1 trillion in terms of GDP. It should be much more than that. Because we have the potentials. Now, from the book called 0 to 1, a book promoted by the founders of PayPal, including Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla, it is accentuated that technology adoption leads to intensive growth. That's what we call intensive or geometric growth. And that if you adopt technology adoption, you move from 0 to 1, but if you adopt globalization is what? A copying things that work. It's copycats. That's why when those days when we were young, China and Taiwan, it is Taiwanese products. Because what they were doing that time, they were learning, reverse engineering, copying things that work. So it's not really the original, it looks fake. But today they have moved on, they've learned from that, and things have improved for them. But that's globalization. They've really moved to technology space where they've been able to create their own thing, new things. So we talk about incremental growth, and then we talk about intensive growth. Intensive growth is technology give intensive growth. While globalization, copying things that work, give you what? Extensive growth. Extensive growth is arithmetical, while intensive growth is geometric. It is time for the government and regulatory authorities to take bold and bullish steps in the adoption of business model innovation and innovation in development and management across sectors. With a population of under 35 years, young people, comprising 70 to 75% of Nigerian population. That's quite massive. And that is a big, big boost for the country. Because countries are looking for young people. The average age of people in Japan is 60 years, in the US, Canada. In fact, go to Italy, maybe even 70 years. Who cannot walk again? They have a lot of issues, pains in their neck or waist and all that. The new young people, that's why they're doing immigration. In fact, a study says that without immigration, you can't get the type of growth that you're having in Canada. It will drop by like 18%. In the US, by about 15%, without immigration. So immigration is the game changer for them because a lot of the old people can't do the work of young people. Young people have a lot of energy. And so Nigeria is blessed, having under 35, about 70-75% of the population. It is a big boost for the country if we are serious about it. So we can use that to our advantage. So we must take reasonable measures to promote and adopt technology in all sectors. We should begin technology parks. In fact, somebody was talking, a very senior person was talking to me. He mentors, he said out of the 10 richest people in Nigeria, at least 3 of them are his mentees. I was talking to somebody. He said anything he wants, he will get. And they were asking him, what can we do for your state? Rivers, Bayelsa, what can we do for you guys? I mean, you guys are too behind the, the park. What can we do for you guys? He was asking me, and I said, the first thing to do is about technology park. Why don't do technology park? We don't have such a thing. Lagos is doing quite a lot of things. They're talking about film village, music. So anybody that is doing music must go to migrate to Lagos to be able to make the scale. You can't do it here. You can't scale here. You cannot scale in technology. You cannot scale in music. You cannot scale in film. What are you guys doing here? Why can't we deliberately do that in our state, in our region? And that's why I like what Uche is doing and with Canada. I think it's important that technology parks become a reality. Because it will give a lot of opportunity to young people because they have the passion for it, they love it. A lot of young people, you have young children in your house, what happened? A lot of them in the night, they don't sleep, they're always on the phone, chatting and doing all things. It's just their natural habitat, isn't it? And so if we're able to set up technology parks, what will happen? Young people, that is their space, and so they will love to be there. Because one of the things about business development and growth is about passion. Whatever you have passion for, you do well there. The resilience is already there because you have passion for it. And so technology parks are key if there must be a change in the way things have been done. And so we must invest in that area because that will change the trajectory of growth. To create wealth, security issues will be gone. Because if they are well engaged, I don't think there'll be issue of security. The security issue is because the people are not engaged. A lot of energy is there, but nowhere to engage the energy on. And what happens? You face this side, it is the wrong things that you face. And so that's what has happened. Now with technology, capital will not be much of a challenge. As scaling and repeatability are the major drivers in the startup space. What the government owes is to make technology work. And legislate to make both public and private sector take it to the next level. This will also help the ease of doing business. Ease of doing business, look at a country like Rwanda, already on 38, over 190 countries. Nigeria 131. Imagine Rwanda that was in war for a very long time. Kagame came and turned around that country. Why can't we do? A lot of conferences are taking place in Rwanda. The broadband across most of the country is very high. They've invested in that space, intentionally invested. And so it's attracting a lot of investment to that country. So if we invest rightly in the technology, we will attract a lot of foreign direct investments into the country and create new economic businesses, changing life, transforming institutions, and strengthening our economy. So we are doing the right thing here, where our people must take advantage. Now, talking about our school, Garden State Premier Business School, How are we doing this? We are a business school in Port Harcourt, in the Niger Delta. And people ask me, why did you do this school in Port Harcourt? Why not in Lagos? Right now, the opportunities are, of course, we won't have space if you are in Lagos or Abuja, obviously. But we do it here because we can't abandon our region, our city. We grew up here and we want to see how we can support the place. That's why we are here. But what do we do differently? Every student must have a capstone project. Whether you are doing a master's degree or you are doing a PhD, it's compulsory for you to have a capstone project. A capstone project is an entrepreneurial project. And it must be a big idea that must be scalable and repeatable. It's something that is compulsory. All of our students must do that. That's what we've been doing. Now, it may not necessarily be in the commercial sector. Because entrepreneurship itself, you can have commercial entrepreneurship. You can also have social entrepreneurship. Social entrepreneurs are not for profit. So not everybody going into commercial entrepreneurship. There's also a way to migrate from social entrepreneurship to commercial entrepreneurship. It may not be deliberate that people are into social entrepreneurship. People who are into labor, look at something like Adamo Somole, Senator Adamo Somole. Labor union, I don't think he dreamt about becoming a governor when he was running labor. I think he was just doing it because that was the space he found himself. But it gives him opportunity to become close to people in power. You understand political dynamics. And it helped him to become a governor of Edo State. Today he's a senator. So it moves from social, it's called social entrepreneurship. I tell people there are a lot of institutions, global institutions, they are not in Nigeria. Even if they're in Nigeria, they are not big. So if you want to play entrepreneurship, you can start from the social space. What we do is that we encourage people to do that. One of the things I tell people, I say, see, we are follow here. Follow people here. People from this area, this is our region. It's follow we do. How many chambers of commerce do we have? Okay, Nigeria or US, Nigeria chambers of commerce, Nigeria or Italy chambers, Nigeria chambers of. Which one is in Port Harcourt that is headquarters? Which bank headquarters in Port Harcourt? Which company? A global company that is. Even the Shell, they are all moving to. So you can see that we are just follow people. It's time for us to begin to reinvent ourselves. I tell people there are global bodies. There are global institutions, social entrepreneurship institutions that are not found there. Why can't we create Nigerian Cambodia Chambers of Commerce? And the president is based in Port Harcourt. And let people from Lagos come. Our school, people come from Lagos to join us here. They log in from Abuja and all the places to do it. That's the way to go. So our own interest is to be able to develop people on a technology space, come up with business that are scalable to make sure that we make an impact and change the trajectory. We cannot be complaining things are not working. It is in our own our hands. Our destiny is in our own hands. If we push anything in the right way, we'll get to our destination. Ladies and gentlemen, I consider it an opportunity to come and stand before you today to address you in this very auspicious 10th ceremony or 10th event of the Startup South. So once again, thank you, Chairman, Mr. Apiafi Kalada, and Mr. Aniche Uche for inviting me. Thank you very much. I hope you have listened and got something out of my discussion. God bless you all.